Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Big Conversations by Ordinary People. It's with great pleasure that I get to have you on the podcast, really. How this works is I'll let you introduce yourself so that people really understand who you are. Yes.
Thanks, Mark. Well, my name is Nollis Marais. I'm a coach from South Africa, rugby coach.
Yep.
I was invited by Uganda Rugby to come and assist Coach Fred with the national side for a couple of months. So I'm looking forward to helping where I can.
How has the experience been so far?
Yeah,
How
it's
is
been
it
it's been an eye opener. I didn't know that so many people play rugby in Uganda. And the first day I got here, I went to the Pirates and Heathens game, and it was eye opener for me.
Yeah.
The fans were in it. It was such a great atmosphere. I really enjoyed it. And at the end, it's something that we're not used to. At the end, the guys were coming from each team and singing to the crowd their music, and it was quite good. I think Pirates got a song, Redemption or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good, quite good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like some sort of inspiration that puts you in a position where you come to consult for the team, or this was just invitation? Or it's something you do occasionally, go and visit other national teams?
Actually, how it happened is that Uganda Rugby Union contact the Bulls, because I got a relationship with the Blue Bulls, and I am a former coach of the Bulls.
Yes.
And then Willem Strauss, which is the president of the Bulls Union, asked me if I would be able to come and assist for a while. And because I didn't have anything planned immediately, I said, no, I'll come and do that, because, as the ex-coach of the Bulls, and my relationship with the Bulls and so relationship with Uganda Rugby, that whole connection came together like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how would you rate our rugby right now?
Well, I think that it's a growing sport. You can never say somebody. It's difficult rating it, if I put it this way.
Yeah.
There's certain areas play certain kind of rugby. I think that you guys try and play a lot of quick rugby. It's a lot of sevens played into a 15-man's game, so it's quick. Where we would settle down, we have a penalty, we'll take the penalty, kick for a corner, maul them, because South Africa teams are much set piece based and play from that. People tap the ball and run it from everywhere. So that's happened between Pirates and Heathens.
Yeah.
Pirates were down 20 points, and each penalty they tapped and it went quickly. And so they got back into the game and won the game at the end, because they played chaotic rugby and chaos rugby. And if Heathens just settle down, make sure they control the game, Pirates would have come back into the game. So they're trying to make it very quick, which is entertaining for the crowd. But that's why I believe sometimes any team can beat the other team on the day. I would like them just to settle a bit more, make sure that they control when they're in the lead. Don't give momentum to other sides. But it is interesting when they start running the ball from everywhere.
All right. So how is the challenge? Do you still feel like this is challenging for you, coming from, say, the Bulls, where mostly everything is professional, there's the funding, there's sponsorship, players, teams are solid, to come into, to where almost everything is not aligned as such? There's such a big struggle with our rugby. Do you find it as some sort of challenge that you're taking on in your life journey to add some value to us as well?
Yeah, I think, to put it this way, I think I was under no illusion of what's happening in Uganda Rugby, because I watched a couple of games of the RAC of last year. And I also watched, there were some YouTube clips of club rugby in Uganda, so I kind of knew what's happening. But I think it doesn't matter where you go in the world, if it's the Bulls or wherever, there's always going to be challenges.
Yeah.
I've got a saying one day, somebody told me this, he said, every level has got its own devil. So, if you work with under 9 kids, it's to get them to be focused. If you work with senior guys, you get sometimes to do with some egos. So I think every level's got its own devil.
Yeah.
It's just we have to put the right things in place. So my job is here to see what I've told them from the beginning. I'll give it a month and see how everything plays out, and then I'll make some recommendations. But there's room for improvement in Uganda Rugby, and the good thing about it is everybody wants to improve, and I've enjoyed that. So everybody is there.
The energy is amazing.
Yes, energy is amazing. Wherever I've been, I'm into your club, the other week Eagles. It's amazing how the guys train and the commitment everybody does. Traveling from far to get to training and going back home as well. It's been a it's been an eye-opener for me. So I think, although there's a lot of things lacking, I think as soon as you get people who's enthusiastic, that's committed, you can change a lot of things.
Interesting.
So I'm very positive on that.
So like my friend Fahad here, he was in our school, he was captain.
Oh, yeah.
Then he moved on.
He stands like a captain and look at arms crossed looking at me.
It's like a dictator.
Yeah,
He's
you
always
see,
bossing it up.
I think he wants to fight me. I'm not sure.
So he moves also from being, school's captain to now he's a captain. He's almost like our head coach at Ugos as well.
Yeah.
Because Cherokee is both director of rugby and still coach.
Yeah.
But there's big to that. So he moves from like school as captain. He goes to club captains as well. It's almost like your journey because you also moved from being captain at Bulls to then being the head coach. So how does the thread tie down that journey like that? How is that like? How was that for you? Tell me.
Yeah, I was never coach of the. I was never the captain of the Bulls.
You're never the captain?
No, never the captain. I was only coach of the Bulls.
Ah, okay.
Okay. No, there's a long line of great captains at the Bulls. So I wasn't one of them.
I actually thought you were also captain.
No,
what I was reading.
I was captain of Naka Bulls.
Oh yes,
Yeah, Naka
yes.
Bulls, yeah. Which is the top club side in South Africa. Yeah, but many years ago, I was still young, like my friend there. No, so I think the journey is always, what you make of it, and wherever you go, you try to, leave the place better than you found it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I say, you got to set out in life and say, what's your journey, what you're going to do. And sometimes the journey throws you a bit back as well, and then you must go back to your roots again and coach. As I say, do things differently the second time around. So I think that one thing about coaching is you try and learn players and teach them better ways, but as coaches you also develop, and you see maybe you've done things previously that you should do differently this time around.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of your journey, is because when you're a young coach and a young player, you just want to go, you just want to fix things, I want to win, and sometimes that doesn't work out for you properly. But now when you get older and more experienced, you think, okay, what must I put in place? It's always the small things you have to change to get the bigger picture. Because in the beginning, you want to get the big picture, I want this, but there's a lot of steps to get there. And as I get older, I'm used to getting all things in place now to get to that stage. So I know what it takes to be, a winning side.
So, okay, so you know what it takes. Do you feel like when you got a young team like ours and spend some time with it, you'd easily select the starting team?
Yeah, I do believe that.
Without it being maybe super players, what? So there's a thing like, say, in football, right?
Yeah.
Where top clubs, will literally buy
Yes.
the whole squad to just quality. But then there's building and nurturing players to making them what you want. Yeah. What do you prefer as a coach? And also, do you think it's just about experience?
Let me put it this way. That's a very difficult question you're asking me now. Because if I'm a professional coach with a professional side, like the Bulls, it is much easier just to buy players and get the right guys from all over to come and play for you. Obviously, if you ask any coach, he would love that, to buy players and, go from there. But also the part of being a coach and being, is to develop people. And the first thing you do is you take stock of what you have at the moment, how you want to play and what you have to put in place. And then you can say, okay, I've got this guy good at this and this guy's good at that. And then you say, okay, but I need to develop more players to get to where I want to be. So I think the nice thing about coaching is, especially where I am now, is where I see what the team is now. Yeah. I know where I can take them, but just to get them there. So I know what we need to develop to get them there. So it's also very lekker, lekker is we could say Afrikaans word, which means very nice. Yeah. And so it's very nice to see what the journey is that's lying ahead. And I told the guys it would have been nice if you had like a Netflix documentary where you start and say, this is where the team started and it's where it finishes at the end, because it will be a total transformation as everybody buys in and we get the things right in the place that we want to.
Interesting. Well, that's really something I'm actually working on with my Eagles Rugby Club.
That will be very
to
good.
See the transformation of the progress, trying to document it.
It's always good to see where thing is now, and where it ends up, because a lot of people say all that like the Bulls are a successful side, but the Bulls also went through a lot of journeys to get there. And so it's not as easy as everybody says, they're a good side now, but they put a lot of things in place to get there.
Yeah.
That's why they're one of the most successful brands in world rugby.
So speaking of also maybe that journey, some sort of that, right? Say take Uganda as a case study. We are definitely growing the sport. There's no doubt about it. But compared to maybe South Africa's early days, what are some of those challenges you've highlighted now that you'd think that, okay, this will maybe accelerate it faster? Have you noticed any of those?
Yeah, look, I think the difficulty is at the moment, I mean, I've been to a few clubs. I think that it's the pitches you guys train on, the equipment available. I think if you can start with that and get the proper things in place there, that will help your players as well. I think the coaches are very committed, and you can see, I've been looked to a few clubs now, you can see everybody knows the sport. But coaches also need development. So
Yeah.
I think one thing you should do is get all the coaches in Uganda Rugby and start a development program for coaches, because that's something that is available. You must get the expertise, and I think that will be good for coaches to go on a course. If it's a backline or attack or defense, so if everybody can do the same thing and everybody learns from that, that will be a hugely benefit to the clubs.
Interesting. Okay, that's, I think, fun. Do you think we have like a development program for coaches?
Level 1 at World Rugby.
Okay.
Yeah, you see that the thing about level 1, level 2, and like I'm a level 3, is it's good. You can understand the basics, but I believe if you're coaching, and the coaches will tell you that, and for your coaches, if I want to do defense and I want to learn that, there's no particular way I can go now, or institute I can go here in Uganda and say, listen, I want to learn about defense, because to do defense, it's a lot of parts that falls into place for that. So I don't see that.
Yeah.
In South Africa, there's more coaches, more facilities you can go to. The Bulls are very open when a guy comes and visit, and if you arrange properly, you can visit a session or two of them. But I think there's something that you have to do is get coaches together and say to them, listen, if you're going to rugby, we're going to defend like that, we're going to attack like this. This is the skill level that we need, because that will help the coaches to grow as well, and they can be measured to that.
Yeah.
Because coaches also need the intellectual property.
Sure.
To do their job properly. So I think that's something that's lacking at the moment, what I've seen.
So, speaking of facilities, how critical is infrastructure versus just the cultural interest in achieving some sort of growth?
Yeah, I think the infrastructure is very important. I mean, the one thing I've seen about Uganda Rugby is the guys carry a lot high, and so they get held up and tackle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's because of the facilities for training. If the grounds are not proper, the guys don't want to go to ground. They don't want to place the ball properly because it's not all
Glory.
proper pitches
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that. So I think the facilities is a big part of it. And I also think if you have the right equipment, if you want to explain something, it doesn't always have to be contact. You can use equipment to train and use it and demonstrate. That will also prevent a lot of injuries. But as I say, I can see the guys making huge improvements. But to have a nice facility is always nice. You can do proper things in a nice facility. You can use the field in different ways. So I think that's very important.
Interesting. So, what do you think South Africa did to, prioritize the sport and put up all these facilities? What are those?
Yeah, I think the thing about South Africa is rugby mad. So there's a lot of people coming to the games. The brand is shown all over TV. If you get the national exposure, people will come and watch the matches, and they'll pay to watch the matches. So then you have funds to do different things, But I can see going, I've seen Heathens games, guys coming with the paint on their bodies, and Buffaloes, the other day, the Buffalo team as well. So it's a brand. It's now, how do I, use that brand to get bigger and bigger and bigger? So if you're 10 years from now, you'll see it. There will be a much bigger fan base. But you need investment in the sport, and you need, brand exposure of the sport. You want more people involved in rugby, because that then will change, because that's only the way that happens in South Africa, because you've not been so long time they've been playing rugby. It's the people investing in the sponsorships, and it just get bigger and bigger, and you're playing bigger competitions, and that's something that I think Uganda can utilize going forward.
How can we attract such sponsors, though?
Yeah, I mean, if you play a brand of good rugby and you start speaking to sponsors and say, listen, this is where the nationals are, because remember, the sponsors wants payback. You want to see the media exposure or whatever. So if it's like the Uganda rugby team and they invest into the Uganda rugby team and Uganda rugby does well and they qualify for the World Cup, it opens the whole world for them. I mean, the Rugby Cup that's coming here, the Africa Cup coming here,
Yes.
it's going to be major. You know, so it's good brand exposure for anybody. Now, you don't want that only the one time a year. You want that more. So you must have more test matches here. Play, you know, more test matches, whoever, Namibia or whoever, you know.
Are you still going to be here for African Cup?
Yes, I'm leaving after the Africa Cup. Yeah. Now I'm here for the Africa Cup, yeah.
So that's so you're still here for about 3 months, right?
Yeah, well, 3 or 4 months, yeah. Well, we'll see. At the moment, yeah, 3 or 4 months. They might get tired of me. But yeah, I'm here until the end of Rugby Africa. So I think that will be a good, also it's hosted in Uganda, so that will be good for the people to come on to watch that as well.
How do the individual players then also stand out, right? How do we get names, like maybe some big South African players? How do players here, how can they embark on some sort of...
Can I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying? Yeah, so I think
personal branding that, you know,
Yes.
elevates them as independent players?
I think also the big thing is as soon as your Uganda squad is selected and getting closer to the Rugby Africa Cup, you can do it's very important that the social media gets involved in that, because we want the players' faces out there. You want people to see them and recognize them, because that's lekker for a player, and to see that people recognize him in the street and they say good luck for the weekend or whatever. I think that's media, and what you guys are doing now. I think it will be good to get some of the Ugandan players on there and, you know, do some podcasts with them as well, and to make sure that the brand is going and gets out there, because I think that's as soon as you start getting players in as well, people recognize them and they will start supporting them more.
And how about cross partnerships between clubs? Say like Eagles, how does Eagles get an opportunity to have some sort of arrangement with the Bulls in South Africa? Or is that such a far-stretched thing?
No, that's not a far-stretched thing. The one thing I can say about the clubs in South Africa, they're more than willing to help always. The only thing you guys have got to do is you've got to pick up the phone and phone the right people and start, you know, conversations. And this is how Uganda Rugby and the Bulls started a relationship, because they contacted the Bulls and they started the relationship. So I think I don't think it's a difficult thing. I think it's very easy. Just pick up the phone and start conversations, and it will go from there.
So, now this is the other part of the conversation. Now, South Africa's history is deeply tied to rugby, right? How have you seen the sport evolve in bridging racial differences in South Africa? Do you feel like it's one of those things where it actually clear cuts, and, you know, since, like you said, South Africa is made of rugby, how have you seen the sport try and tackle the racial differences?
Well, I think the racial differences, you know, I think if you look at the rugby in South Africa, I mean, there is no barriers or anything anymore. I mean, if you look at the top players, it's from all races. So I think what South Africa's done well to that is that if you look at the Springbok side now as well, people are not cheering for based on somebody's race, they're cheering because it's the national side. They brand new names. So from South African side, there's no issues. The best guys get picked. That's why we won back-to-back World Cups, you know, because the best guys get picked. So that is, that's not an issue for us. And sport, you know, sport brings people together.
Yeah.
Because if you start playing with somebody and he's like your brother.
Yes.
And that
They're
makes
like
a huge
family.
difference. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying that's a culture you build. So now you look at the Springboks, you can see it. It's such a good side at the moment.
And do you think also the coaches play a big role in that, in inclusivity?
Of course, yeah. It's you just remember, it doesn't matter where you come from. You have to treat every person is different, and you've got to treat everybody on the same basis. If a coach, some players will learn via visual effects. Some guys will be more instruction, but you get them together. If you can tap all the different, you know, the areas, sometimes visual, sometimes instruction, you know, everybody can learn from that.
Interesting. So for you, also, from your perspective, how much How much in terms of investment does Uganda need to get there? Not like a quantifiable figure.
No, I can't quantify the figures. No,
Yeah,
I just think Uganda's rugby is, the Cranes is a national side, and people must start seeing it that way. They are proud of it, but it must be more pride. If I understand correctly what I'm saying.
Yes.
The moment you got a lot of club pride, I can see that if I'm playing for the Eels, I'm playing for Buffaloes this weekend. It's everybody there and smashing each other, and it's a great atmosphere. But for the Uganda side, must be the same love. Everybody must start supporting the Uganda side as well. But that will come. More test matches you play and people get involved, and more brand exposure, that will get there.
All right. Now let's sorry about that. Let's merge into you as a person. What is your sort of mantra, both as a coach and for your personal life? What is that thing that you live by, right?
I'm a very straightforward, direct person. Okay, so you will always know where you stand with me. Even if I play, you might not always like what I say to you, but you'll always know that I'm being honest and I'm straightforward. There's no hidden agenda with me, so you'll know exactly where you stand with me. And for me, anything on rugby-wise, it's got to be about the team. If it's not fit, if it doesn't fit into a team, if it's a player or whatever, it doesn't fit into a team, it mustn't be there. So it must be all about the team. The culture, the vision you have for the side, it's everything that goes must be about the team. No personal, reasons. Everybody's got personal reasons, but the main thing must be everything about that must be about the team. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm, my family, for instance, just personal, my family is everything for me. So it's difficult being away from them for a while, but that's also good. Sometimes I might start missing me again. So
True. So the love just grows.
Yeah. So just on the short.
How is living in Uganda though, genuinely?
Yeah, something get used to is the traffic. That's something it's difficult for me. We've got a lot of traffic in South Africa, but it's more controlled.
Yeah.
And that took me first day to training session. It took me about 2 hours, and so I knew if I want to be early, I must leave like an hour and a half before my meeting. So it's just getting something used to.
Okay. And do you feel like your experience here is there something you've noticed that maybe rugby on a global role needs to improve? Some sort of, not just Uganda, but because you've experienced being in Uganda and also being in South Africa, because that's where you come from. You feel like there is some sort of global ad that maybe world rugby should consider? Is there some sort of thing like that you've noticed?
Yeah, look, from my personal side, I'm not sure how much World Rugby invests into Uganda and all these kind of things, but I've seen what potential there is, and I think that if there's any way that World Rugby can help the guys more with funding or anything on that base, that would be excellent, because there's so many people that want to learn the game and so much love for the game that I think if you get more invested and more people involved in Uganda Rugby, that will be a major benefit to your country. Okay.
Where do you see our rugby in the next 5 years? Uganda Rugby?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question, for the sense of all the weight is put on the Rugby World Cup qualifiers that's playing now in Uganda. If you guys end first, you qualify automatically for the World Cup in 2027, which will be a huge boost for Uganda Rugby. The sad point about that is if you guys don't make it and don't win the trophy, you don't automatically qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
You come second, you have to play a lot of playoff games to get there. If you come third, you're not in. So my question and my concern is, if Uganda Rugby comes third or fourth, it mustn't be a killer for you. It must be now, that's as a starting point, we must grow the sport more and more and more, invest more into it. Because to be fair, your point must be 2031, because that gives you like an 8-year gap to get there, which is less now, but you're on the same. So it must be, if you win a trophy, it's great, but don't let anything that you've built on and worked on just go back. It must just go forward.
How long did it take South Africa to reach this level they're at now?
Yeah, but I think it's an unfair question to, to
Compare.
you guys to each other. I mean, the first World Cup South Africa played in, they won. The first two they didn't play because of, we were boycotted for, all the reasons. And the first one they played and they won. I think there was only after that, South Africa won our 4 World Cups, I think. Yeah, 4. It's such a big sport in South Africa. It's because, we play from schoolboy level right through, and then it's university rugby. We've got Varsity Cup, which is a big thing in South Africa as well, where the student plays for 2-month period. It's there's 2 matches every Monday night that's televised, and the games only played on Monday night. So the rugby just keeps growing in South Africa. And if you have media exposure, that changes a lot. Because if you have media exposure, the brands will start sponsoring, and you'll get more money to do what you want to do. So I think the first thing you guys must do is get more media involved. Try and get some of the guys, interviews. You guys know the media. You must know what to do, but you have to get more brand exposure for the guys.
Yeah, okay. That's something I think we can definitely personally embark on. Sometimes you feel like, what next if you put them out there? Who is watching? What does it mean? Do we compile small videos of the guys, and then maybe their visions? Are people interested in knowing about personal stories of the players? What?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do that.
If they're not winning games on an international level, you feel like no one is willing to watch anything about it.
I think it will something that you can grow. I see you've got a right opportunity now for the next 4 months to get players involved. Small little clips of him, what he does, personal life, like a biography you do of a player.
Yeah.
A profiling of him and things like that. Because that helps sells the people, what the guys are all about. And you can actually now, because there's going to be a lot of world focus on Uganda with the Rugby Africa Cup that comes here, and you can utilize that to give the players more exposure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then
I will definitely do that, because at the moment you got guys that are playing 7s today in South Africa.
Yes.
But the 15s needs a better face out there, if you understand what I'm saying. People must recognize the side, they must start seeing them everywhere. And that is where social media and media is going to be such important for them.
And then the clubs, do you feel, since we are struggling, again, there's a money gap, right?
Yes.
So running a club is not as easy. I run one, so definitely I know how complicated it is to just make sure just the business side of it, and then the sports, because the business side then supports the sport.
Yeah.
So there's such a big divide, right? To putting to just you already need to win. Just investing in marketing the club looks like a far-fetched responsibility at a stage where you're struggling to win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's difficult to market a team that's not winning.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing about that is that you will always get people that want to get involved if they understand where the club is coming from. What is the goals and vision of a club? You will always get because you're surviving now at the moment. You understand what I'm saying? So you'll get people that's involved. As soon as they understand what you're all about, what is the culture and vision of your team, they will start saying, okay, yeah, but I like this team. Let me start supporting them. I might be underdogs now, but 2, 3, 4 years from now, they might be the team that everybody has to beat. And that's why I'm saying you have to get people involved there and make sure. And that will only, I think, will grow as soon as players, Uganda rugby side does better and play more test rugby. And then guy from the Eagles gets into the side and they say, okay, well, this guy's from Eagles, he's from our club. That will give you more exposure. But as soon as everybody understands where you're from, you got Pirates and all those guys as well, which is one of the bigger clubs.
Yeah.
But people got involved in it because they started to be successful. And it's no different for Eagles. As soon as they start winning, and people will get involved in that, but they need to understand where you're from, what is your vision, where you're going.
What's our story?
Yes, what's your story? Everybody must write his own history, must that.
What's next for you after Uganda, after you live here? Are you still head coach?
No. I finished with the Bulls a year ago. So I was actually between things before I came here. And I'm seeing now in the next 5 months, I find out where I'm going. Yeah, I'm agents and everything that gets involved. So I need to find out what's happening.
What's your sort of best rugby memory?
Oh, there's been so many. Yeah. winning Varsity Cup, winning Curry Cups with the Bulls. I think there's too many. I think the biggest memory is always when you start by coaching is where you start and where you finish. And sometimes we have had a bad start and we still won the cup at the end. I think that makes everything worthwhile, to see the end result. So my best memories would always be winning our first Varsity Cup with Tikkies, beating Marty's at their stadium 44-5, and then with the Bulls winning, 2 Curry Cups in a row, which is a big thing in South Africa for us. So, and that was also one of the best, memories.
All right. Now, you mentioned the varsity challenge also. So these schools rugby here is something, right?
Yeah.
It's also really entertaining. Top schools, it's some sort of pride. But somehow, there's like a link, right? Schools, clubs pick players right from school. Some top clubs groom the players right from school. They act like academies. But there's like a big disconnect in time also because the sport doesn't give you all hope, right? It's when you're playing rugby here, it doesn't feel like you can achieve all your dreams by just playing rugby, right? It's a bit of a slow sport commercially, but it's important. What's your opinion on like a varsity challenge, or what's your opinion on schools rugby, and how does that contribute to the bigger culture of rugby at international level?
Yeah, I do understand the financial side of it, but also schoolboy rugby in South Africa, it's just schoolboy rugby. Obviously, you get a lot of sponsors gets involved there because they want to be associated with the school. So if you went to Afrikaans Hoër in Pretoria, and the old boys want to come back, they invest into the school and things like that. What they do have in South Africa, which I like, they got like big derbies. So let's say Office play Waterkloof or 1-2 big schools, they televise those matches because it's a big thing. You get big crowds. I mean, you play Paul Boys and Paul Gym. I think it's like 20,000 people. It's more than that at a game already. Because it's rivalry. Everybody that went to that school come and watch it. So that's a big thing. So I think if you can do that, maybe if your top 2 schools start with that, televise that match show, because people will get involved. And so I was at that school, and that makes it, if you can connect people to each other, if you give somebody something, you say, yeah, but I was in that school. Maybe he's, a big businessman who starts sponsoring that school. That's how I would look at that. And then on the Varsity Cup side, it's actually in South Africa. It's something that they started years back. It's an amazing thing that they're doing at the moment. I thought at one stage it would drop down the numbers, but it's just picking up. You're talking about a minimum of 10,000 people at a game. So they have 8 universities in the top side, and they play a round robin, and then they play semis and finals, and each week 2 matches are televised. And everybody must be a student, and you must have a certain kind of passing grade to qualify to play the next year. And the sponsors come for that because it's student life.
It's big. It's very engaging as well.
So the student come out and watch their team, because you must now think for yourself. If you were at your university here, okay, now through that university, they've been like 3 million people already in the last 10 years. All right, now they bring a rugby side. Now those people that's been finishing with the school or university, they start supporting that team because that's where they're in the school. So the fan base is huge.
I hear you. It makes sense, yes.
Yeah. So if you can get all the universities, I don't know how many it is, but you can get 5 or 4 and you start a league like that, people and it starts to be marketable, you will get sponsors from that.
Yeah. I think that's the same technique we're going to actually really take as well.
And which is a good thing, because also for your youngsters, sometimes they don't make it into the first side at a club. If they can play and they study at university, usually it's under 23s and things like that. It will be a good competition for them just to bridge that gap as well, because then you've got school, you've got university, and then you've got club rugby. So it gives them some bigger competition to play in.
Why did you choose rugby?
I'm obsessed with rugby. So
how does it start? Why didn't you choose soccer, table tennis?
I don't know, because I think I went to. It's my love.
When did you start?
No, I played rugby from before I was at school. That's the thing. We were born with that. When you were, everybody like 2 years old, your dad gives you a ball, and you start playing with it. You watch it on TV, and it just grows from there. And it's something, but it's it's a difficult thing. It's a fire inside you can't put out. I mean, I'm old man now. Don't say that. I'm not an old man. But I got such a love for the game. I mean, yes, I can't imagine my life without rugby. I really can't do. I think my best relationship I've had, even in my life with people, is because of rugby. Friendship I still have afterwards is, after rugby, outside of rugby, let me put it that way, is also guys that I've been played with, because you build such a brotherhood, and you'll always be connected to each other. Even if you see each other 10 years down the line and say, yo, I've played with that guy, and we still meet up and things like that. So, no, rugby is just, I don't know, I love it. It brings the worst out of a person, and it brings the best out of people as well.
What's your best team now?
Best team now?
Still Bulls?
No, Bulls. No, look, the Bulls is bigger than me. The Bulls is bigger than Jake White. Is bigger than the previous coaches. It's people that support it. It's coaches that's been through the system. My love for the Bulls are big. And then obviously there's only one team in the world, and that's South Africa, the Springboks.
Yeah.
So, that's
the Springboks eat
and luckily we win.
I actually really enjoy that rugby as well.
Yeah.
Besides them winning, but I think I enjoy that rugby because they win a lot.
Yeah. That's usually how people like them, because you start winning, then people start supporting you more. But I'll tell you one thing as well: if you lose, if you with the Bulls and you lose, people don't like a team that loses as well. So they get a lot of flack from the fans as well. Yeah.
So. And you've also been at one of our training sessions at Eagles, right?
Yes.
When you compare and contrast, how is a typical training session, say for a team like Bulls, compared to Eagles?
Yeah, I think it's not fair to compare it, because you're talking about a professional side that trains. The only thing they do is do rugby. They've been longer in the game, so they are more structured, more prepared, and because they've got a lot of people that's support staff. We got support staff all over. Everything gets planned to a T, the minute, how long we train. They got GPS. You measure everything. So I think what you have at the moment, your training sessions, you have two passionate coaches. When I was there in club management, it's passionate, and it makes a huge difference. And I could see everybody's there and doing their best. So that's where it starts, And it will only get better as time goes, and the coaches. That's why I'm saying my personal thing is, if you guys can get a system here where the coaches can go to and they can see, listen, okay, this is how we set up a training session, this is how we plan the training session, this is how we go through the whole planning thing. I think it will be a major benefit for the country and the coaches. So what I'm saying is, if people looking at, can you fix Uganda rugby in a sense, can you win titles? But it's bigger than that. It's, what about the other coaches? How do you build that system where they can keep on improving themselves, being measured, and go back to their clubs and do proper planning, do proper training sessions?
What is a proper training session?
Well, it depends on what you want out of a session. Okay, so if you prepare for a match, you start at a certain base and you build it from there. And it's too wide to explain you in just one session. It's what do you want to get out of the game, but how do you get that? Now, if you do a defense drill, so how do I put that defense drill into place? What is the players going to learn out of that? So it's so huge. I mean, you've got to sit one day and just go through a session and see how a session is being done. And that it will open your world.
How much does a pro player make in South Africa?
No, it varies. You can make from 50,000 rand a year to 15 million. So it depends. Depends on what league you're playing, how professional, and then obviously if you're a player of national interest, that difference. But the money is not bad if you're a good rugby player. But
you can survive off it, right?
No, definitely. They can survive more than survive off it. Yeah, they can. But also on the other side, the bad thing about it is you earn a lot of money and you get injured, and suddenly you have to go work. Then you go from that money to a small amount of money, because companies are not going to pay you what you earn when you played rugby.
Yeah, so in fact, speaking of that, right? So the reason I failed to play rugby in high school was because I come from a school that plays a lot of rugby.
Okay.
Its reputation is just rugby. it's almost like South Africa. Once you're in a Minengo college, rugby is a thing, right? But the reason I failed to play rugby was because when you get injured, even if you're playing for the school's team, it's the burden of treatment is on your parents, right? So my dad really told me that if you get injured playing rugby, and I do not have that money, you're going to sit at home until you heal. So I got so scared about that, and I was like, imagine I lose my shoulder or something, I crack a knee, and I sit home for the rest of my life. But that's the thing. That's the general thing. Like, that's a scare. In fact, up to club level, right? We at Eagles recently lost a player, Kayo Ndoroni. May he so rest in peace. But it was still on courtesy for the parent, you know, to the bill was much as that Eagles is as supportive that they are all through, but the parents still have to come and support financially, because again the club cannot foot such a bill. It would otherwise run out of business, right? So there's that big challenge. However, though, why don't we have big partnerships, say dictated by, say, World Rugby, where the health bit is covered maybe by the union, something like that?
Yeah, look, I cannot answer for World Rugby what they have in place. I know that in South Africa, players have player insurance. So,
yeah, we also don't have player insurance.
Yeah, so they've got also a committee which is My Players, which run the players, you know, basically they think, but that's for professional sides and things like that. So it means if you're injured, they will carry you another 6 or 7 months, or you're injuryable or whatever. I'm not too sure the particulars on that, but there is the players in South Africa are actually quite good looked after, you know. There is a company that runs that for them, you know, insurance-wise, and they get paid, you know, a certain amount and a certain period. All the details on that, I wouldn't know. But, you know, but it's still the same thing for a schoolboy. If he gets injured, then he's on his parents' medical bill. You know, that is life. That you can't get away from that. I mean, it's your responsibility. And rugby is a contact sport.
Yeah.
So you're going to get injuries. That happens. And unfortunately, if you don't have medical aid in South Africa, you must go to you know, a state hospital and they treat you there. But if you have your own medical, then you know you. But the bill is still always going to be your.
On you.
On you.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. Anyhow, what sort of legacy are you trying to leave behind?
Well, my biggest thing is to see.
Oh, do you feel like you've done it all for rugby now?
No. I'm far from done it all for rugby. But my biggest thing is I'd like to leave Uganda rugby the best I can when I go away, and hopefully I've changed some lives, and I see how things can be done differently. And also, I'm learning a lot from the people here. You know, I said if you sum up Uganda rugby in one sentence, I told Adam the other day, is that I've never seen people so committed to doing things, and that's what I'll say. If you sum it in one sentence, I'll say for the love of the game. Because how far you guys travel just for a normal club game, things like that, you know, it's for the love of the game. And that's impressed me a hell of a lot. So for me, leaving the country, I would say that that's something I've learned, is that don't take the small things for granted, like in South Africa. Be more aware of what other people are going through to make a session work. And then I'd like to leave the country where I'd say, listen, if you win the RIC and they qualify for World Cup 2027, that's what I would like to leave behind. If not, that we don't win it, because there's so many factors that goes into that, is that I have to leave it better than it was. And I always say to players, leave your jersey better, leave it to the next player better than it was. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yes, the number should carry that weight.
I mean, if you go now in the world, Ronaldo, number 7, everyone wants to be, you know, something like that.
How would you rate the South African government's contribution and participation to the sport?
No, so it's huge.
It's huge, right?
Yeah, no, it's huge. Yeah.
Do you feel like governments like ours also need to benchmark from how much government is involved?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like we are at that right path where, you know, our government... I feel like the union is doing something commendable with the sport. Yeah, but also there seems to be a lot of disorganization from my perspective, right? Yeah. And I've observed it more than you have. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what roles do you think governments
Yeah, it wouldn't be fair for me to answer that question because I haven't been involved in Ghana more than a month's
No,
rugby.
that makes sense.
So for me to make any statement on that, I think it'd be, you know the people, Mark, you're going to work with the guys, so you know exactly, but for me to make a statement, anything on that. What I've seen so far, and the dinner we had tonight, it's quite good. I met the minister the other day, and a very nice person, and he wants to be involved. So from my perspective, but that was one evening, it looks good, but you guys will know more, so it wouldn't be fair for me to make a comment on it.
All right. Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Do they play rugby?
Yes, my son does play rugby. My daughter is in the States at the moment. She works there, and my son plays rugby for the University of Pretoria in the Varsity Cup. Yeah, hasn't started yet. Hopefully, soon he'll get a game in the next couple of weeks.
Interesting. Would you advise, with what you've seen here with the grounds and pitches,
Yeah.
don't you feel like it's too high risk for you to advise a child to play rugby?
No, I think rugby is high risk. Doesn't matter where you play. You can play on the best pitches in the world and you'll get injuries. So rugby is a contact sport. It's how you treat it and what you put in place to make sure that players, don't get too injured. But I mean, you can never prevent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a contact sport. Anything can happen.
All right, Coach Nollis.
But there's a difference. Don't be silly. That's it.
Unless you have some questions for me now. But that's basically, yeah.
No, let me ask you the question. How do you see Uganda rugby at the moment?
That's great.
I'm talking about the national side.
The national side, I feel like it's progressing, right? I feel like people are intentional about that. The national team now, management is up in their game. There's victory, and I also feel like they brought us good victory that people believe in them. People believe in the team. The support is up there. So it's definitely growing better from my perspective. Yeah, there's hope. So that same hope is what carries into my vision as to why I'm running a club, because I see that there's a big future. That the sport itself is growing. So it's growing exponentially. I'll say it's good. Still so many things lacking, of course, in terms of sponsorship. I feel like government needs to, pull into helping the union attract bigger sponsors, but they are working on that. So to be, and yeah, it's basically that's just it. I wanted to ask you, in your experience, as a coach and as a player, have you lost a player on pitch before?
I'm trying to think. I've lost a couple of players in my life, but I can't remember that someone passed away because of injury in the field. But I've lost a couple of players to car accident, drowning, things like that. But I can't remember anyone passing away because of a serious injury on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do know a player. No. When I coached school level, guys that we played against, he actually got an injury as well, and he passed away the evening in hospital. Yeah, so I know players. Yeah.
For us, it was really, really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know how long it takes for the team to move on, but they want to be strong for that player. Mm-hmm. But then it also eats them up, so it's a bit challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully now that we've started the foundation, which has instilled back the hope foundation to just keep his memory living, and also improve the pitch where they play from. That's forever going to add some sort of value to them because of him.
Yes.
His legacy, so it means a lot to us.
And you must also remember that each individual takes it differently to the other person. Because for me, I might take it harder than you, and it will take me maybe longer to get over it. And you cannot determine the pace that someone must heal, my experience. It's just to be there for them and support them and, help them wherever they can.
How do you keep your mental health intact as a rugby player, since it's a contact sport? You're just going to fight. Yeah. But then before the game, how is it like?
I think is everything that you do in training, I always believe that everything that you do in training, you do for a purpose to get ready for Saturday. We call it like battle ready. So even if it's small little contact sessions, things like that, you get ready for the weekend. You as a coach must make sure that your team is prepared for what they will do on the weekend. So it's not like the first time they run into a thing, they don't know what's coming. So it's all about getting players ready, and that's why World Rugby has also put level 1, level 2, level 3 in for coaches to make sure that they understand those kind of things as well. And so I think you have to prepare your team, your players for that. And also, and this is very important, if you know that a player is carrying an injury,
Don't play.
don't play him. Don't take that risk. I'm not talking about a little hamstring or whatever. You know, if it's a hamstring problem, you know if you're going to hurt that thing, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks out. But if you know a player's carrying a serious injury, don't play him. Winning is not worth,
A life.
a life or a major injury. to
Major
someone.
injury for life, yeah.
Because sometimes you will be surprised, a guy that's not usually picked, he might be better for that game because that other person is carrying an injury. That guy will probably put his whole body on the line for that. So that's just something I live by. If a player is not ready and the doctor recommends, I'll get mad at the doctors because I want him to play. But if they say recommend he mustn't play, then I wouldn't play him because I always say, you've got to treat someone. I would try and treat players like they're my son. And I wouldn't do that to my son. So I wouldn't do that to their sons. You know, that's the thing. Because still you're a mental factor. Now players look up to you and how you behave and how you do certain things. And if I go around the pitch and fighting with other coaches, what do you think they're going to happen? It's going to happen the same thing.
Yeah.
So, same way respect.
So besides just money and playing,
Yeah.
how much value has rugby significantly added to your life?
I've seen the world. I've seen a lot of places that I wouldn't have gone in my ordinary life. But I never wanted an ordinary life. You know, I always fight with that battle still in my head, is that I don't want to do the average thing everybody is doing. I mean, I had a job, proper job, I left it. I went to, without work for a year, to coach rugby. Because I had such a love for rugby. And rugby took me all different places. I wouldn't be able to provide for my family the last 12 years if it wasn't the way I did, if it wasn't for rugby. We would have been okay and we survived, but rugby just took it. Because rugby is emotional. It takes you one day there, next day it throws you on the ground and steps twice on you, and then you must get up from there again. So it learns you a lot of valuable lessons in life as well. And I mean, I've been to Australia, I've been all over the world. I haven't been to the United States yet, but maybe one day, but I've been all over.
Now you've taken your daughter there, right?
Yeah, my daughter's there, I haven't been there. And I mean, I'm in Uganda because of rugby. You know, I know it's the source of the Nile and all these kind of things, but I'm in Uganda because of rugby.
So it gives you all these experiences, life experiences that...
I mean, that's, you know, and that gives you that because you must appreciate what rugby can do for you. You know, and sometimes I think people, let's say take the Ugandan national side, they qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're going to be the next 3-4 years, well, 2027 is the next one, is going to be huge for them.
Yeah.
They're going to Australia, they see all these different things. There's got to be a lot more investment into the country, a lot more people that wants to have interviews with them, more people that wants to understand where Uganda rugby is coming from. It's going to be major, and you wouldn't have that in a normal, ordinary job, really. So I think the players at the moment have this opportunity to be part of something bigger than them. Because they can go back one day and say, we won Rugby Africa in 2025. We were the first team ever to qualify for the World Cup. Ever. You can never take that away from them. And that is a major. I would like that stamp. For my coaching CV, I would like that stamp and say, I've been at Uganda, we started there, and this is the way the guys went and all the commitment they have, and we've qualified for the World Cup. You know, first thing is win this RAC, and the next one's we obviously qualify automatically. But that would have been nice just to put on my mental piece, if you want to say that, and say, here's my Uganda rugby jersey, guys qualified for the World Cup. I mean, that's major. That's big.
It's really big.
And I don't think at the moment, because it's difficult to see a vision if you don't feel it yet. But if they can understand that, how their life would change in 4 months' time, if they can just make that commitment and that step, it will be life-changing for them.
And it's a trickle-down effect from the club inspiring the national team has to inspire the clubs. Then we get better clubs, striving to play hard so that they.
Because if you
can
look
get
at
to the
the,
national
if you look
team.
at the investment, just money-wise, that's going to come into the country because of qualifying for the World Cup, it obviously, because you've got good people in charge at the moment of the union, it will filter down to the clubs, and it will just be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah.
So this is the next 4 months is so
Crucial.
I know everybody wants Pirates wants to win, Heathens wants to win, Cops wants to win. At the end of the day, the Uganda national side must win the RIC and go forward to build this sport in the country. Or do well, even if they don't win it, but do well. But if they can win it, it's going to be mind-blowing for them what they can achieve.
Can't wait to tell people that I was with one of the legends that made it happen. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
For
I
doing this
really appreciate it.
conversation.
And
You too.
sorry, sometimes my Afrikaans comes through still a bit. So,
Yeah. So maybe just I'm going to make you do a small ad where you shout out to the foundation and just tell people whoever can donate to it, because we put together a scan. So we've we are working on the Kayondoroni Foundation, right? And also putting stands. So in honor of his memory, we are putting stands at Chitande Grounds where you saw.
Yeah, so
people gonna sit. So we're in the process. They're actually already, some of them are already up, the stands up, but we still need people to support. So we're just using anyone we meet that is influential in rugby to just add on to amplify the message. Fahad is going to script it right after here, but thank you for having this
Okay,
conversation.
no problem. Fahad must just show me what we must say.
Yeah, Fahad is going to tell you what
No,
you want to
thanks,
say.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.